today. Matriculated in 2008, celebrating his 15th reunion. We got him away from the golf course early last night, so we make sure he was fine for today. He was a sixth head boy of both the school and Blackmore. He today is accompanied with his mum and dad and his grand. I'm not going to give him this. He's a college, very much of a college supporter, but very, very special welcome to you today. He went on to win 50 caps for his residence in Stellenbosch University. He obtained obtained a CA and a CFA degree as a portfolio manager of a hedge fund. Boys of DHS, old boys, I'd like you to welcome Mr. Matt Lynn.
Good morning, Mr. Pinero, members of staff, fellow old boys, and you, the boys of DHS. I've been asked to share a brief story with you all, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this one, as it has only happened once in 157 years at school. In 2008, 15 years ago to the day, I happened to be standing in this exact same spot, motivating the school before the massive task that lay ahead. Just like you now, we were playing Kersey, although DHS had not beaten it for a few years. DHS had been through a few difficult years, and our sports results had left much to be desired. Another team we had struggled against for several years was the juggernaut that is Maritzburg College. Our first game of the season that year, on a Friday night, was against the old foe, and was to be the first game played under lights at DHS. Early on the Friday, I was sitting in class overlooking Van Heerden's. The rain had been pouring down all morning. The floodlights were still lying on the ground. And we had already been written off against college. With only a few hours to go before kickoff, the teacher in that class smirked and said to us, "These lights will never go up. Tonight will be a disaster." Within 10 minutes of the statement, miraculously, the first rays of sun broke through the clouds and the first floodlight went up. Before we walked out of that class, all the lights were up and the game was on. College won the toss and arrogantly offered the choice of what to do to our captain. Under those Friday night lights and in front of thousands of spectators, we beat college by 28 points to 7. We were the underdogs, and this was an incredible victory for us. But I have another story about an underdog that I'd like to share with you. In 2004, a young lad began his journey at DHS and the Blackmore House. From the moment he entered the gates, all he ever dreamt about was running out on Van Heerden's in front of his beloved school and to play a game, just one game, for the first team. As the years went by, and as much as he persevered, he never quite cracked the A side. But he was always lurking, and he played as if his life depended on it, no matter the team. Once he reached under 16, and after an off game for the C's, he was dropped to the D side. Unperturbed, and after one fiery practice session with his new teammates, he was immediately installed as captain. His new team went unbeaten for the rest of the season, with this captain driving them to several memorable victories, albeit for the D team. In his final year at DHS, he was selected for the thirds after an inspired performance at the Open Trials. Surely this would be the pinnacle of his rugby career. He passionately represented the blue and gold each week, and ensured that all those who played against him knew that they had been in an incredible battle. What happened next would forever change his life and leave an indelible mark on the 5,000 spectators we had in attendance at Founders in 2008. For this die-hard DHS boy, history beckoned, and he would go on to achieve something that had never been done before. In the week leading up to Founders, the second team flanker had picked up an injury, and incredibly, this kid who had persevered for 5 years received a call-up to start for the seconds against Kersey on his final finals day. Before I get to the crux of the story, I'd like to add something. That youngster who had dreamt of representing the DHS first team, who had put his body on the line for the school week in and week out, was actually me. I was not exactly like the other boys at school, as I had to face a very different type of challenge to those that my fellow schoolmates had faced. I had to do it all with this. I was born with an absent fibula in my left leg, a 1 in a million chance of that happening. And as a result, my left leg was amputated when I was just 11 months old. I received my first leg on my first birthday and learned to walk, run, and play with whatever sports I wanted with this, my prosthetic leg. So, it's the week of founders, and I've just received my call-up to the second, and I'm absolutely elated. I trained like I'd never trained in my life, leading up to what I thought would be the biggest game of my life. I woke up in Blackmores on a Saturday morning, and for the first time in my DHS career, I had no nerves. I had trained for this moment for the past 5 years, day in and day out. I had never represented the top team in any age group, but I never stopped trying, believing and always emptying the tank, even with the leg missing. The second team game went by like a blur, and we drew with a team that was supposed to have beaten us. Straight after the game, I was given the number 19 jersey by the first team manager, but I didn't think much of it, as I assumed I would just be a number on the bench. And off I went to lead the school and walk around. Doing so wasn't difficult. As the blue typhoon quickly gelled, we raced into an early lead, and the chants of Durban, High, School, bellowed around the ground. With the floodlights on and thousands of supporters screaming, the atmosphere was unlike anything we had ever experienced. When the whistle shrieked to kick off the second half, that same team manager who had handed me that jersey came up to me and said, "When the clock gets to 1:15, you're going on." I immediately passed the walk-on stick to someone else, and I just stood there in disbelief. When the time came, I was prompted to go on. I ran onto the field, and each of the first team players ran over to me to slap me on the back, congratulate me, and tell me to get stuck in as the job was not yet over. I stood at the back of my first line-out, and I could barely see our hooker through the impassioned tears I was weeping. For the next 15 minutes, I think I ran faster than anyone on that field, and hit more rucks than anyone could ever imagine. As the final whistle went, I collapsed, again in tears, as I, against all odds, achieved the impossible. Mr. Barry Wilson, the first team coach, who also happens to be here today, had turned my dream into a reality, for which I'll forever be grateful. I had earned a cap for the DHS first team, and I'd done this with what many people would say is a disability. We also smoked crazily by 20 points that night. Whilst I had achieved my dream, something for which I'd worked so hard, I've realized as I've gotten older that life is not always about playing for the first team. I realized that so much of my character that had been built up in many of the games that we are taught to think are unimportant. I viewed every single minute I was out in the field for DHS as a challenge to overcome adversity and to prove people wrong and their misconceptions. By turning my disability into my greatest ability, I was able to achieve every single day that I was at DHS. No matter the team you are representing this weekend, you have thousands of old boys celebrating you, your achievements, and our fine school. You have an opportunity to show your brothers playing alongside you how much they mean to you. It's your Founders Day. Now go out there and create your own memories that will last a lifetime. I did. What's stopping you? Thank you.
let them know.
Our blood is blue.
Our blood is blue.
Our spirits is gold.
Our spirits is gold.
Oh, when we die.
Oh, when we die,
We let them know.
we let them know.
Our blood is blue.
Our blood is blue.
Our spirits is gold.
Our spirits is gold.
Oh,